So first, maybe let me start with some data point, which is important. So 20% of the US GDP is done on terms. 20%. We're talking about 4.9 trillion US. This is stats from the Federal Reserve Bank from Q3, third quarter 2024. It's significant. So you can understand that significant part of our world is done over terms.
First of all, really appreciate you being on today and hearing about you, payments, B2B payments, and the story of Balance as well. But I kind of want to start with how you individually got into our world of B2B e-commerce. How did you get your start?
Hey, Justin. Thank you very much for having me here. First and foremost, I'm very excited to be here and share a bit about my journey and have fun discussions about B2B commerce, which I personally very passionate about. So again, I'm Nir Gazit, VP Product at Balance. Spent over 2 decades building and scaling digital products across IT, fintech, and e-commerce, all the way from payments to credit to AI-driven automation. Started my career as a software engineer, then bootstrapped my own fintech startup in the wealth management space. And this is where I really discovered the fintech domain. And from there, I joined to product leadership roles, both in Klarna and SafeCharge, and later into more B2B companies where we consumed fintech products as part of the monetization strategy. And generally speaking, my passion is about connecting technology, finance, and customer experience to really reshape how companies and how B2B companies buy and sell at scale.
I think the payment side of B2C is so rich, right? In fact, many software companies finance most of their companies through the fintech side of e-commerce, right? And there's quite a few companies that do that. So that's so rich on the B2C side, yet there's a lack of understanding of what that even means in the B2B side. And you guys have really differentiated between what infrastructure looks like on the B2B side versus B2C. I'm curious, like, why do you see there needs to be so much like information about how those two stacks differentiate between each other?
That's a great question. And I know that your listeners, they are very much like, this is like the main topic. What's different about B2C than B2B?
Mm-hmm.
And once you really understand it, because fintech, and this is why it's so exciting, payment is such a significant part of our life. So eventually many things are reflected in payments. So human behavior is reflected in payments because payment is, in a way, is like a trust mechanism. I trust you, this is why we exchange goods. And with B2B, it's more than B2C because specific characteristics. So if I try to summarize that, so if you think about B2C channels in general, what they try to optimize on conversion rate and repeat purchases. And in B2B, most companies, of course, they optimize on relationship value, contract size, and credit terms. And if I try to break it down about the differences, so first thing, with B2B, there is the relationship aspect, which is significant. Is super significant. Like with B2C, when you go on Amazon, for example, and you purchase a t-shirt, white t-shirt is white t-shirt in most cases, and you just need to make sure that you are familiar with the brand, or you are okay with the quality, and you buy this t-shirt. And maybe towel is a better example because you don't have the branding aspect of it. So towel is a towel as long as you have like a sufficient review and you are okay with that. With B2B, it's completely different because you have the relationship aspect, and in many cases, companies they take pride of their vendor network or supplier network, and it's a significant business advantage. This is one thing. The relationship part, the trust part, super important, super critical in B2B. Second thing with B2B, which makes it way more sophisticated, is that not all buyers are made equal. So again, when you and I we go online and buy on Amazon, from Amazon perspective, we are the same in most cases. But on B2B, I can come from a huge corporate and you can come from an SMB company. And of course, the behavior is completely different. Average order value is in B2B is 10, 20 times bigger than B2C. So of course, payment methods and the entire exchange of goods is different, right? So you cannot buy something worth $100,000 with credit card. Like you can, but in most cases you don't have enough credit line, or the merchant will say, "Hey, I'm not going to pay these 3%."
Right.
And of course, there are financial workflows, like you have the ERP as the system of record. And again, back to the Amazon example, when you buy on Amazon as a consumer, you are the decision maker. You go and submit the order, so you are the procurement team. You receive the goods, so you are the receiving team. And you pay for that, so you are the accounting team as well. And with B2B, each function can be completely different person. And in big companies, it is like departments. So now you start having like a workflow, and this workflow needs to be tied to the payment flow, because I'm the decision maker. Someone else needs to pay for that. So now how can we make sure that we pay for the right thing? So payment is just a reflection of all these things. And now you need to come up with a different stack to understand how you can address all these challenges.
You mentioned, I want to make sure I get those three. I think those were pretty important. The value of the relationship, the credit terms itself. What was the third one?
Average order value.
Average order value. I feel like terms, I think it ties into what you said. Terms isn't just a financial, contractual thing. Terms also feels cultural in B2B, like an expectation. Like
What?
Dig into that a little bit for me. Like why are terms so important in B2B versus B2C? And then what are the ramifications of terms in the financial process?
Yeah. So first, maybe let me start with some data point, which is important. So 20% of the US GDP is done on terms. 20%. We're talking about 4.9 trillion US. This is stats from the Federal Reserve Bank from Q3, third quarter 2024. It's significant. So you can understand that significant part of our world is done over terms. Now, why it's so important? It's important, and it's a fundamental thing for B2B, because with B2B, wholesalers, distributors, they buy goods in order to sell them. And then this thing creates a cash flow problem, because from the moment I buy to the moment I sell, there is a gap, and this gap someone needs to cover for that. So this is the first thing. So buyers are now very much expected for you as a seller to provide me these terms, so I can, before I pay you, I have money to pay you, so I need to sell my goods before I can pay you. So terms is a way to overcome cash flow. This is one thing. Another thing that we see a lot nowadays is that big companies, they don't have a cash flow problem, but what they have is more like a workflow problem. So for me to pay you, I need to get this piece of paper, which is called an invoice, because all my system demand this piece of paper. My AP system, workflows, everything that is built on top of that
Mm-hmm.
requires that. So we have customers that say, hey, and big enterprises, buyers, they don't need this cash flow, but they need a workflow. So this is another thing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand the marrying of that paperwork, the purchase order, the invoice, and then the shipping, notice that those three documents together are in most systems are needed to be able to issue a payment of any kind.
Exactly.
And you need that. And those are literally paper documents.
Right.
Staying on paper, I'm curious. There's I haven't calculated it, but there's got to be a kind of an invisible cost of paper checks out there. I mean, I think one stat I saw, maybe it was from Balance, something like 50% of all payments are still done manually, which means checks and then literally reconciling those checks in the systems as they come in, cashing the checks, signing the checks, depositing the checks, that process. And there's got to be a cost for most organizations just managing that. Have you guys dug into
Yeah,
that?
of course. So our based on the feedback that we received from our customers, the cost to process a check can be around, in some cases, more than $50 to process a single payment. Because in many cases, and again, I'm sure we'll talk about like AR automation, which is a significant part of that. In many organizations, though you have some sort of automation, it still requires a lot of manual work, like manual work. Someone needs to go check. So it requires a lot of manual work, which of course costs a lot. But the interesting part about check is why check is still such a dominant payment method. Because people are just saying, okay, let me offer my buyers direct debit or pay with card, and of course they're gonna love it. But the truth is that check is such a popular payment method,
Mm-hmm.
goes back in not in all cases, but in many cases to terms again.
Mm-hmm.
Because in many cases, and I'm not sure whether you experience that as well, but in many cases, the act of sending a check, like over the post, yeah, like using the post, but the definition that you earn some days of credit, and in and in many cases, it's very easy for you to act like your seller will call you and say, "Hey, where is my money? Where is the check?" So you tell
In the
them,
mail.
in the mail. You didn't get it? I will send it again. No worries. And then, oh, you get another like 10 days of credit.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. I never thought about it. I actually got 2 checks this week from vendors, and it was the first 2 checks we had received. And most of our stuff goes ACH, and even that process, as I went through it, I signed the back of the check. I had to take a picture of it to deposit it. I made a mistake, and as I was kind of thinking that, I was thinking about the costs that are involved. You have the float of terms, or the time the check gets there, the labor to do all that, even if it takes 5-10 minutes, is still labor, and then the reconciliation process, and then
Right.
the errors that occur, by missing a penny or transposing a number. I just would think that's pretty significant.
100%. So what we do and what the way we try to help these merchants is to offer different means of payment in order to, and of course, incentive for their customers to switch to different payment methods.
How does this all change, or how does the orchestration workflow change in marketplaces where the buyer and the seller and the facilitator, none of them are part of the same entity anymore? Like in a traditional buyer seller relationship, at least one of them owns the process and workflow. But in a marketplace that's kind of fragmented across all three, how do payments change across that?
So it changes in like the entire stack is completely different.
Mm,
So from regulatory perspective, you need to come up with something like completely different structure because in most cases, the marketplace doesn't want to have the liability to hold the funds. So this is where you need like a more like a pay fac solution, which we offer as well. So there is the regulatory perspective, and on top of that, of course, you have different payment methods, which we kind of covered that are needed. But now back to the fundamentals, the trust aspect of things is getting more and more complex because now, so we work with Alibaba as an example.
hmm
So you are, imagine you are a buyer, you manage like a small, like a small store on Amazon in the States. You want to buy from a seller in China through Alibaba. You trust Alibaba, well-known brand, but you don't know where the seller is. You just don't know.
hmm
Alibaba, in most cases, they don't know you. The seller doesn't know you for sure. So now, how you bridge the trust
Right.
gap? And again, it's eventually with all the AI and everything, it's about, I trust you, I give you the money, I trust you to pay me in return for me to send you the goods. And this is where we come and try to help with the trust problem.
I want to talk a little bit about trust because I think payments themselves often get kind of placed in the back office as a back office thing. And I think one of the things that you guys are seeing is payments and terms is, more than just a back office thing. It's a user experience. It's a part of user experience and customer experience. It's part of potentially a competitive advantage. You guys talk about trade credit as the currency of B2B commerce. And I think that
Right.
builds into trust. Talk a little bit about that.
So let me start from like simple stats that we collected throughout the years. So for merchants that offer trade credit or net terms, so in terms of new buyer acquisition, increased by 38% on average. And again, when I say on average, I'm talking like different industries, all the way
Mm,
from construction to fashion. 38% new buyers. In terms of increased spend, we are talking here about average monthly spend rose by 42% and on average, and we have we have 12, our data show that 12% of the buyers increase their monthly spend by 50 to 100%.
wow.
So the numbers are crazy in terms of like if you want to grow your business, offering net terms is not like yet another feature that you need to check the box and say, hey, it's a back office thing. Let me just make sure that I cover that and move on.
Mm,
It's a real business advantage. And 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 this is why in many cases customers they come to us and they come and say, hey, there is like a big movement of B2C customers that now go and say, hey, B2B is a huge market opportunity for me. And you can see that across the board from like all the well-known brands in the world, like Airbnb, Booking, Instacart, everyone tries to go to the B2B. And then they say, okay, payment, credit card, this is what we are used to. And then these buyers they come to them and say, hey, what is it? We don't work like that.
one differentiation on that though, like I think there's a difference between like a normal credit process. So if a company offering a credit process often is like fill out this 32 page PDF
Right.
and then the process is 10 days to get approved. And in this world of B2B commerce, we expect decisions to be made in a few seconds versus, certainly a few minutes, in a few days or a few months as it often is, because it's all labor focused. How do you guys look at that difference or that differently with actually automating that credit process?
So there are different approaches here. So we
Mm.
started a lot with automation, and in order to make a better impact, we are more toward autonomous AR, and I will
Yeah,
explain
what
a
is
little
that?
bit about that. So if you think about the market right now, and again, it goes back to exactly what you said, that the feeling in the market right now is that AR is more like a backup
Hmm.
or a back office activity. And there are many back office softwares to manage AR, like many great companies, High Radius, Build Trust, great companies, but it's more like a back office software. And still, you need to have many people behind the scene working with these softwares. When we did the analysis, how many people actually work in the AR teams, like on the AR functions, our rule of thumb is that if you take a distributor wholesaler, roughly 10%, 10% of the workflow will be on AR.
Wow.
That's a lot. And now the question is, after all this investment, do they do a great job? Like,
Right.
do the buyers happy after all this investment? And back to what you said, in many cases they don't, because it is in a way automated, but it's still it takes time, and
Hmm.
it involves a lot of manual work. The way we think about that is more like an autonomous way to manage AR, is that in most cases, especially now with AI, you can allow the machine, the tools to work in an autonomous way that you don't need to do anything. And of course, there are specific buyers that you really care about, and then you give them this extra attention with the sales rep or manual work. But in most cases, especially with SMB buyers, you cannot really handle that in scale.
Hmm.
And you can do that, but it's then 10 days, 20 days, and in many cases, it just doesn't worth the effort and the time. Like the ROI for SMB buyers in many cases is net negative.
Right. Especially people chasing down small invoices almost becomes like it's not worth it to chase down an invoice for $25 versus large orders. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
How do you see this fitting? How do you see the buyer journey itself and credit fitting into customer experience and user experience itself?
The way it works today, so I just had read like a very interesting report from McKinsey, if I'm not mistaken, that says that around 50% of the orders in B2B are done in a self-served way.
Hmm.
But the interesting part about that is that in most cases, the order is submitted in a self-served way, but since trade credit is not connected to the checkout, then you have a mismatch. Because what happens is that
Hmm.
I submit my order, great, check, self-served, I'm happy. And then 2, 3 days later, I get a phone call from the accountant saying, hey, sorry, you don't have enough credit limit, so you need to try again, or you need to reduce it. And then you are kind of like, what's going on here? You are just wasting my
Hmm.
time. And what we see and believe is that once trade credit is part of the checkout process or part of the purchase experience, then you have a really seamless experience, because pay by invoice or pay on terms or pay later for business, however
Mm-hmm.
we want to frame it, eventually can be used as more like a payment method in a checkout. And you have like full visibility what you have, and you just select it and you go. So to cut the long story short here, you can craft a beautiful user experience that is very effective in order to minimize the work, the back office work, and improve the customer satisfaction.
I know going a little past the terms, the payment terms, but as you were talking there, I was thinking about how distributors can solidify their relationship with their suppliers by better AP practices. Like payments, if you have a solid payment ability on as a distributor as well as an AR side, if you have both an AP and a solid AR side, you also strengthen your relationships with your supply chain partners backwards, which I think is interesting. Thinking about how all of this, the flow of money through a distributor to its partners and from its customers, kind of solidifies relationships on both sides.
100%. In many cases, it can be a make or break for a
Mm-hmm.
company. If you start having like a cash flow problem, then it's in some cases you are in a real risk.
We talk a lot about customer adoption and increasing customer adoption. So part of customer adoption is, of course, the ability for them to purchase. But there's also offline things that happen that destroy relationships, like bad collection processes. If you have bad collection processes that either are delayed too much, or they're too aggressive, or they're not automated, then you have this ability to destroy current existing customer relationships. Have you guys given any thought to that? Like how it
Of course,
affects on the collection side?
of course. So again, back to the differences between B2B, B2C.
Mm-hmm.
In B2B, not all buyers are made equal. So you need to make sure that, for example, for your small customers, you can be more aggressive. For your bigger one, of course, you can be way less. And of course, the way we think about it when we develop our system is that just to accommodate this behavior and to be able to differentiate between different type of buyers. In terms of like the most sensitive buyers. So we offer more like a way. So the way we believe, our philosophy in this sense is that though we invest a lot in AI and AI tools, but still we offer you, the merchant, the final say how you are going to talk and approach to your top buyers,
Hmm.
from tone of voice to frequency to everything.
Hmm. I think that one, core problem in payments is that this doesn't get talked about upfront in projects often, right? In fact, I don't hear a lot of digital leaders talking about payments as part of the customer experience, and we don't have finance often involved that as they should in this part of the process. It feels to me that this should be a upfront discussion versus something that happens at the end. And I'm curious on, like, when should the conversation around payments start, and who should be included in those conversations?
So you are right. And in many cases, we see these customers that it's kind of they try to fill the holes in the journey, and it's just very hard because you
Hmm.
need to you need to plan that, and you need to be very mindful about how to craft the experience, because payment, I know it's again, I'm a payment nerd, so this is what I love. But again, it's such a fundamental part of what we do, so you cannot leave it to the end.
Hmm.
In terms of who needs to be involved, the reason why it's so hard to craft a great experience there, and this is another problem that we see, is that crafting a great experience involves so many stakeholders in the company. So you need the finance team, you need the go-to-market team, like sales rep from the go-to-market team, finance team to issue the terms days. Then you have customer support. Like it's not easy to craft this great experience. But those who do that well, then they see the dividends.
I think part of that, Nir, is that so often what happens is in an e-commerce project, we ask the company, like, what are your current processes? And then let's duplicate that or replicate that process online instead of thinking through how do we actually improve the process? How do we use technology to improve that, right? So we might talk to a distributor and the distributor says, well, we have the first thing we do is we have a credit department and that credit department needs an application. And so e-commerce will build a credit, application, a PDF, or if they're really good, it'll be a fillable PDF, right? Or a form that they fill out. But when they hit submit, it still goes back to the credit team, and the credit team still takes 4 days to approve it. By that time, the order's gone and lost to someone else. Versus this idea, and you were referencing this idea of thinking through, okay, like what's the best way to build this experience for our customer? Instead,
100%. What I learned, and again, it's not about B2B only, it's about, generally speaking, that many merchants, whether B2B or B2C, are kind of mixing between digitization, and this is what you kind of talked about, like filling up, instead of sending a piece of paper over fax to filling it online, to an e-commerce experience, which is different. It needs to be faster. Everything needs to be more like real time. The system needs to know you more. The system needs to be able to address different use cases. It's not just like, let's optimize our back office work. If this is what you end up with, it's great. It's nice, but it's not great.
Is this area something that you do once and you're able to kind of just let it run, or is this something that should be addressed and is more dynamic in that way?
You mean this optimization?
Yeah, the optimization or the whole idea of terms and payments. Can you just like create it and then just kind of forget it and let it go, or how does it look?
So it depends. So so we have customers that kind of outsource their AR function to us, and we do that for them. Some are using that as more like a hybrid mode. So it depends on the merchant appetite to invest in this space. What we know is that if you come to a stage where you need to decide whether you want to build it in-house or to outsource it, in most cases, the answer is very simple. I want to outsource it. But the truth is that you have many existing companies, like most of them. I'm talking like more than probably 99% of the industry. They have their own like in-house teams, like AR teams. So the change there is more gradual, but we see very interesting trends over there.
I think if you're a digital leader listening to this, I think, we often talk a lot about including your executive team, and that you can't outsource digital transformation to the digital team. Digital transformation the strategy has to come from each of the leaders, including finance. And I think this is a great way to incorporate and bring in the finance team into these discussions, that you might not have been able to have before, because I think it directly affects them. Nir, with all the stuff happening in AR and the rapid changes, how is AI affecting the payment space?
So AR by definition has a lot of manual work,
Mm-hmm.
repeatable work, even like copy things to the ERP. So AI in this sense has and will have, you will see more and more automation done by AI. Now, the tricky part is to define the right level of AI that is good for you as a business. So is it you want to go full blown autonomous, like let the AI run, maybe for your SMB customers, and something less for your enterprise customers? So we see that trend, and of course we invest a lot in this space as well across the board, like from cash application to payment to billing to underwriting. Naturally, this is something that we do a lot. And of course, like something that is more like long term is something that well, I heard a great episode where you talked about like agentic commerce.
Hmm.
This is something that we started not seeing, but it's something that is kind of getting more momentum on the B2C side of things, and we'll see that I believe in the B2B as well. Maybe specifically, again, this is my view. Maybe agentic commerce in a way is going to be the right technology that will skip the need for B2B businesses to go online. So they will skip these websites
Mm-hmm.
that they some of them are now going through the process, because once you have this technology and these tools, your independent e-commerce website is not relevant anymore.
Yeah, I think how that translates. I think the fastest is, you know, direct system to system integration with some middleware kind of brokering that maybe includes a website, maybe it doesn't, but not where there's an experience someone's going through. I need to buy this. It goes, finds the best product at the best price. But even in those situations, all of a sudden now, I mean, payments and trade and know your customer, KYC, all of a sudden becomes even more critical, right?
Exactly.
You have to have those automated triggers in
Yeah,
there to
and then
know.
and then the question is how will trade credit will
Hmm.
will will fit in there. So now like you have another layer. So everything is getting more complex in a good way.
Hmm.
Because eventually your customers will have a better experience. But it means that for you as a business, you need to start thinking about these things. Like you can't just say, okay, uh, I'm happy with where I am, all good. I can relax. Like unfortunately, you can't. Like it's a never ending story that you need to iterate. You need to get better. Otherwise, you are left behind.
So let's talk specifically about balance. So talk to us about what exactly you guys do in this space to make it easier for both distributors and manufacturers.
We offer a financial infrastructure for B2B commerce. And again, I hope I made a good case why you need a different one than B2C. We work with merchants across different industries: fashion, food, construction, electricity, wholesalers, and more. Notable brands that use our services are Instacart Business, Alibaba, Bstock, that they use our
Hmm.
infrastructure to extend net terms and financing at scale to their business buyers. And of course, without them needing to have like in-house AR team to take on credit risk. So behind the scene, what we built an entire AR stack. An AR stack means that we automate credit application, billing, payments, collection, and cash application. So Customers, our customers, in many cases, they replace their entire AR stack with us. And in some cases, we help them with specific segments of the market that they cannot address nowadays, specifically SMBs. So if you are a distributor and you don't have the manpower or the capacity to deal with these small buyers that they start coming, then we can help you to address this specific segment.
And do you guys then kind of move the risk of these terms from the distributor to you? Is that kind of the largest part of it?
Exactly. So we offer two different, the core is based on two things. So first, credit risk. You can offset credit risk completely. And if you want, you as a merchant, we can advance the payment for you.
Okay.
So for example, if you as a merchant, you have liquidity issues, so you can say, hey, I want, I want this purchase to look like pay now. So I'm gonna get my money right now, and you balance, you do your job, you collect the payments and everything.
So for the listener, so a buyer of a distributor that has a balance in place, a buyer of a distributor, brand new, might be an SMB customer, comes to the distributor, wants to purchase something, they they apply for credit terms and they're using the balance infrastructure to do that. You are approving them or
Correct.
disapproving them. So if you approve them, now you're saying to the distributor, if they don't pay, that's on us, not you, distributor, and you don't have to use your process to approve them. And then if that distributor, and so let's say the terms were net 30, and so that buyer wasn't going to pay for 30 days, the distributor can say, I want that money now, and you're collecting that, and you're kind of taking over the float between the two of them. And obviously there's fees associated with that.
Of course.
But it allows the distributor to get cash faster, to approve more companies, and really offload that risk to a company like you. I mean, it's
100%.
it's really just about frictionless. I love how you guys kind of focused on the acquisition side. It's frictionless, but on the adoption side too, I would imagine, that ability to get cash faster with existing customers is also. Do you guys handle, when you guys said you kind of offload the entire IR stack? Do you do offline orders as well as online, or is it just
Well,
online?
yes, of course.
So
This
both.
is this is the hybrid mode. You
Hmm.
can, online and offline. You can use us for both.
Amazing. And is there then good tech for the buyer, online or offline, to be able to check, okay, this is where the
Of
invoices
course.
I still own.
Of course. So you as a buyer, you get more like buyer portal or payment portal. You can
Hmm.
see all your invoices. You can update you can see paid invoices, unpaid invoices, payment methods. You can do all of that in a online way,
And then
self-served way.
you guys integrate backwards to most of the ERPs that are out there, I would imagine.
100%.
Do you guys implement balance yourselves, or do your partners do that, or is it a mixed mode? What's that like?
So in most cases, the merchant, they work with us, but there are some agencies or
Okay,
that help them to do that. Yes,
very good. And
and
what?
we have pre already like integration with the main like e-commerce platforms like BigCommerce, Shopify, and so forth.
Hmm.
So then it's just like you don't need to invest anything. It's just a matter of like a few clicks.
And integrating backwards and stuff like that. Yeah, that makes sense. What's your typical customer look like for balance? Is it
So it
is it more wholesale, more distribution than manufacturing, I would imagine?
Correct. Because in many cases, manufacturers, like you, it's more like a funnel. Like
Hmm.
manufacturers that have less customers. And if you have less customers, you don't need a lot, like a big team to manage them.
Hmm.
So the more you go up the funnel, the more customers or buyers you serve, the more you need these type of tools. So this is the reason why it's more like wholesale distributors.
Okay. And I think that SMB market, there's a lot of companies trying to figure out how do we crack that SMB market. I mean, they can try to crack it with credit card, but credit card and B2B, I think, do you have any stats on what's credit card use in B2B? Do you have any stats on that?
I think
Do you remember anything?
it's something like around like 10-15%.
So very small
Very
versus
small.
B2C that's so high.
Yes.
So companies they're just not used to paying for things with a credit card related to jobs. Like I think they're used to paying for office products, and things like that with a credit card, but not related to the jobs they're actually doing on a daily basis. So that makes a lot of sense.
So again, it's you are right, and of course there is the fee aspect of it. Like if you submit an order worth $10,000, now you need to pay like 3% fee. It's like $300, and especially for distributors where the margins are so slim, they can't offer that. Like in many cases, this is their entire margin, these 3-4%. So this is why they don't offer card payments. And if they do, they put like a surcharge fee on the buyer.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think there's so many aspects of B2B commerce that are complex. I love this solution though because it's truly offloading, both infrastructure, technology, process, people, labor, errors. It's offloading all that to you guys. I was kind of struck by a couple things in this conversation. One is 20%. I'll just kind of recap for everyone listening. 20% of the GDP is on terms. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. Almost $5 trillion just in one quarter in terms. And then those that offer terms, 38% average increase on acquisition. Within those, a 42% increase in monthly spend. And then 12% of those companies increase their monthly spend by 50 to 100%. I think those numbers are pretty astounding. And I think if you're looking for opportunities, especially on the acquisition side, if you're looking for opportunities to increase customer acquisition in true B2B where terms are, then you've got to look at a process like this. So pretty incredible. Nir, thank you so much for being here. How do you prefer people get a hold of you individually and then the company itself?
So you can reach out over my email, where I believe we can
show
post
that
afterwards, and through my LinkedIn profile. If you are interested, reach out. This is my thing. This is what I am very passionate about, as you can see. So just exchange ideas, and I'm here to help.
Amazing. Nir, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Justin.
Manufacturers, distributors, leaders in the zone. If you're building B2B, this the podcast throne. The industry's heartbeat, we're setting the tone. Turn insights to actions, it's how empires are grown. We're talking change management, breaking resistance. Strategies so sharp, they redefine persistence. Customer adoption, it's more than retention. It's building a movement, commanding attention. It's the B2B e-commerce show, where the vision is clear and the strategies glow. From the top of the globe, we're the pros who know. Turn the volume up loud, it's time to grow. We bring news, big topics, insights to spark. From the boardroom's glow to the warehouse dark. Digital transformations, the path we're paving. Helping you lead through the change you're facing. This is more than a podcast, it's the industry's voice. Giving you the tools to make the right choice. No fluff, just facts, no hype, just action. The show where solutions are more than a fraction. It's the B2B e-commerce show, where the vision is clear and the strategies glow. From the top of the globe, we're the pros who know. Turn the volume up loud, it's time to grow.
This is your guide to the digital race. Practical advice, no time to waste. So tune in, gear up, and let's own the space. It's the B2B e-commerce show, the industry's base. The industry's base. industry's base.